Greetings and salutations. Welcome to the first episode of the Fill Me In podcast. My name is Phil. Surprise, surprise. And I would like to start off just by thanking you for giving me the opportunity to be in front of you for a little while. I mean, you have a lot of options here. Obviously, the internet is filled with stuff. There's all kinds of people, all kinds of opinions, all kinds of all that kind of stuff. But for whatever reason, you landed on this for a little while, and I appreciate that. Thank you. Anyway, on to the matters at hand. This podcast is brought to you by Life. Might have some actual sponsors in the future, but right now, it is brought to you by the idea of living. Not just experiencing, not just existing, but living. And, I've always been a big proponent of that. My friends and family have always given me the wide eyes when I've made crazy, drastic decisions based on the idea of living, based on the idea of just not being stagnant, all that stuff. I moved to California when I was 19. When I was 22, I joined the circus, and when I was 22, also I ran away from the circus. I've moved since then. I've moved about 10 times. I lived in 10 different places since then. At least I have skipped out on opportunity that, in one respect, it was great opportunity. Things like relationships, things like jobs, even living situations. I've skipped out on certain things in my life because I just saw the other side of those things. I saw the settlement that I, as a person, would have to make to do those things, especially with jobs, but with living situations too. I had an experience. I've actually had this happen to me more than one time, where I had the opportunity to live in a place basically for free, but I would have had to I don't want to say that I would have had to sleep with the landlord, but it was pretty obviously hinted at the idea of a living situation swap for sexual blah blah blahs. So one of those situations was the kind of situation that you see in like a silly, like a stupid Seth Rogen stoner comedy movie where the woman is looking for this young guy to sleep with them because they're lonely and they're not attractive and they're sick mentally, and they're just the kind of person you don't want to be around. So not only do they not have a person living with them, but they don't have even the girlfriend or boyfriend living outside of their house. They don't have that girlfriend or boyfriend. They don't have that relationship. And so one of those situations where I got offered a room was one of those. And I said no, but not because of the person's looks or mental state or any of that. I said no because I could not stand the person. And I'm lucky it didn't happen to me at a younger age, because maybe at a younger age I would have just done it. I would have just dealt with the fact that I couldn't stand that person. But I don't know. Over the years, that's something I've been trying to give less and less advice, because I realized how little I know on a day-to-day basis. I realize more and more how little I know, which just sounds like a paradox, but whatever. That I've learned over the years that one of the only pieces of advice that I can give people, sincerely, one of the only ones, is that you need to be comfortable to a certain extent. Total comfort is dangerous, but total lack of comfort is not just dangerous, but it's absolutely terrible. It is not worth it. It is not. It's just not worth it at all. So don't do that. But with the other situation, the other person that offered me a room, sorry about the camera movement here, the other person that they were beautiful, and they were cool, and they were just mentally stable and all this stuff. They were all these things. But I said no to them as well, because I couldn't stand them. You know, physically, yeah, they looked nice, and mentally they kind of had it together and all that. You know, that was all there. But I mean, I couldn't stand them, and so I couldn't imagine having to deal with them every day. I would have rathered had an office job to pay an outrageous sum of money for an apartment. I would have rathered that every single time. I would choose that. I would never choose to be with this person. And I told, after I denied the room, I told one of my friends that knows this person. And right off the bat, they were like, "Oh, you're crazy, she's beautiful, oh man, she's, blah, 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 blah." But they went on and on about how, for like a minute, they went on and on about how crazy I was because I was missing a golden opportunity. And I explained this to them. I explained this idea that I don't like being around them. I don't like how they talk to people. I don't like how they treat themselves. I don't like anything about them. I couldn't stand them, other than the fact that they were pretty and that they were mentally stable. You know, mental stability and looks are a bit overrated when it comes to living with a person, you know, because and I know that from personal experience as well. I've not just had a different variety of relationships, but I've lived with a different variety of people in relationships and without. Many kinds of roommates and a few kinds of girlfriends. I've only lived with 3 girls, technically only 2 girls, but they were opposite kinds of people. One was, in a category that totally and absolutely juxtapose I'm using that word wrong. It totally mirrored the other person. One girl was one way, this way, one way, this way, one way, this way, one way, this way, and then the other girl was this way, that way, and this way, this way, and this way, that way, and this way, this, blah, blah, blah. They mirrored themselves, one was very classically pretty, one wasn't as classically pretty, one was completely mentally together, and one was not so together, things like that. They really they were different people in very balanced out ways. So I think I have a pretty a good reference point for saying this. You can't just judge living with someone on their them. You have to judge it on you compared to them and them compared to you, and all of that stuff is just so deeply important, and it's disregarded a lot of the time because of those other factors, because the person's rich or beautiful or rich and beautiful or any of these things seem to really be a good reason for people to just be like, yeah, but yeah, she's like that other way, but you know, whatever, yeah, or he's like that other way. Okay, but you know, the balance has to be there. If you're settling, are you really settling, or are you just, I'm just settling? Yeah, it's all right. That's fine if it's just like, you know, she's crazy, but she loves me. She loves my kids. She's beautiful. That kind of settling, I get that. But if it's said in a different way, like, I mean, yeah, she loves my kids. And yeah, she's beautiful. And yeah, she loves me, but she's fucking crazy. If it comes out of you like that, you might want to look at it again. You know, you might just saying, you might want to, because it's really, I've gone deep down multiple versions of those roads, and living with people, relationships, friendships especially, oh my God. And friendships are the dangerous one, because you really, you know, years in, it's not like years in with a relationship, you can end it, and it'll be hard to end it, but you can end it. With a friendship, years in of a friendship, it becomes weirder. It gets a little stranger to just end a friendship, because in a lot of cases, you don't, what you have realized about this person isn't something that you can just come up to them and be like, hey, you're like this, so I don't like hanging out with you anymore. It doesn't work. Usually it doesn't work like that, right? I mean, you don't usually have people in your life that are a certain way and are comfortable with hearing that they're that certain way, whether it's good things or bad things. I've noticed that on good sides and bad sides. Most of my friends that have like great aspects to them that are like, you know, I mean great as in like notably different than the average person, like exceptional attributes. Those people that have exceptional attributes, most of them, people, friends, family even, most of them have a real hard time hearing it. Have a real hard time with compliments or just complimentary discussion or detail about how they are. They just have a weird, and I personally happen to be one of those people. I have a weird time with compliments. I like them and I appreciate them, but my reaction to them sometimes sells the wrong ticket, because I either get uncomfortable or I don't know what to say, and maybe I'm not even uncomfortable, but I don't know what to say, because everything that comes to mind to say doesn't do the job of what I'm trying to say. What I'm usually trying to communicate when somebody gives me a compliment is gratitude and appreciation and a little bit of surprise too. You know, like, wow, okay, thanks, I really appreciate that. if I could say that authentically to the person in the moment, it would be over. And that's all I usually have to say is, wow, thanks. Really appreciate that. Just say it just like that. But most of the time, my brain doesn't let me do that because like, depending on the person, I'll either get a little, I don't know, a little uncomfortable or a little like, well, they're just trying to be nice, and like overly pessimistically rational about it. Like, well, yeah, they're saying that because of who I am to them, and they're saying it because this is the first time I've accomplished this thing, and thanks. It's like really, it's really fucking. It's just, but because I'm like that, I get why people are like that, and then I especially get why people are like that with insulting things, with negative things, with just pessimistic things that are on the negative scale. I really get why people have a hard time hearing those things. I mean, I used to be like that too. If anything, I have a harder time getting compliments than the other side, because the other side, I mean, most of it I just find funny when people are trying to insult me. I just usually find it funny how bad they are at insulting me. But a lot of it's like, it's just clouded over by like confusion of like, why is this person even trying to do this right now? Like, I'm wondering why they're doing it so much, usually, that I don't even get a chance to be insulted or hurt or anything like that. I'm trying to figure out like, what just happened? Like, they just flipped over. What did I say? What did I do just now? What have I done to? Or what have I blah 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 blah? Like, I go almost automatic. I go introspective, or trying to observe just the past few moments of the conversation, because it usually doesn't add up in my life, and I don't usually get insults that are. The insults I usually get are either jokes, my friends, trying to cut deep, or just people who are doing it in the moment, because that's just a good example of that is like road rage kind of insult. Like, that kind of insult's usually the kind of thing I get, if I get any at all, because I just don't interact with people enough to be insulted. Now, I will get into disputes and arguments with a lot of people, but I try to let myself only get into disputes and arguments with people who can have those disputes and arguments without ending it with an insult, or getting frustrated and using an insult because they're frustrated, like, like not just having the conversation. People like that, I don't get far enough with them usually in conversation for them to insult me. So my ability to take an insult is not comparable for most people, I think, because I have very, very odd way of looking at life in comparison to the general public. I find humor in way more than I probably even should. I find things that don't make sense to be just immensely interesting, and I don't see actual sense being made from most things in modern day. So I have like a constant just day barrage of like like all day. So I'm not a good comparison, and so I can't really give a good judgment on why people have a hard time taking insults, particularly. But from what I've been told, and things that have been told by people who I trust their opinions, either by scientists or by people that I know personally who are like I'm sorry, scientists that I trust other things that they've said, not just because they're scientists, but or people that I've known for a while or a long time, and know within the context that I can basically take what they're saying on face value, and if I need to look into it, that's fine. But if they say it makes sense. Those people have told me that taking insults is hard for them. Or not insults, I'm sorry, just negative feedback from people, whether it is an insult or whether it is like criticism or any of that kind of stuff, any negative stuff. But the two big ones are usually criticism and insults. They say it's hard because it is usually overwhelmingly, just most of the time, it's stuff that they really don't want to deal with or hear, because hearing it makes them deal with it. And I get that. Because I used to be like that. Growing up, I was like that most of the time. I was, in certain ways, I'm still pushing some of that stuff out, but I do a pretty good job of it now. Of like, if something has to be dealt with and it sucks, well, that sucks. Then it has to be dealt with. So again, sorry for the planes. I wonder if filming that is not looked at as okay in the government's eyes. Too close. Filming plane too close. They would have a time with people like foamers. Anyway. So taking things in and not even hearing them and dealing with them, but like even just listening to people say negative things, I think it's something that we as a society are doing a lot better with, but I also think it's something that we need to keep getting better at, because it's just necessary. Like I think I was saying before, that whole idea of stress being part of life it's not just that it's a part of life, it's an integral part of life. Stress is where most growth comes from. Stress is where we learn most of the time. So to avoid it altogether is dangerous, but I would suggest to avoid certain stressors, and this is nothing new. You've heard this before. I've even gotten some of this from other people, but a lot of it's just from personal realization and personal experience, that there are stresses in your day that you don't even notice are stresses. Okay, things like when you're on the train and you're listening to the two people argue about politics, and you sit there and you go, wow, I'm so glad that I don't have that mindset, or blah blah blah. I'm lucky. I'm a lucky person. Yeah, to a certain degree you're right. But if you're sitting there on the train and listening to these people and basically just judging and comparing yourself to them and having a dialogue in your head for minutes on end about it, that, hate to fucking break it to you, is a stress. And it is a stress that you should get it the fuck out, because that kind of stress, I would submit, is way, way, way more impactful than the stresses of terrorist activity in the world, or famine, or any of these big, gigantic stresses. Because those stresses, yes, they're stressful, and yes, they're worrisome, and yes, you should plan for and blah, blah, blah. But those are very rare things in your daily cycle of things that are on your mind. Obviously, it doesn't count for somebody who lives in a city who's under attack or things like that. I'm talking from a point of view of the average American person, and I'm broke, basically. Right now I'm living off of my very small savings from the last few months of work and unemployment. I am getting my whole perspective is really, but what I'm trying to say, where I'm coming from is who I'm talking to. I'm not talking to people who have the big things, those big kind of stresses in their life on a constant minute-to-minute basis on their day. I am not talking to them, because I do not know what that feels like. I do not know. I've had that happen, like maybe twice in my life. Hurricane Sandy, that day was pretty kind of like all day kind of like that. And in a way, I guess, when the Twin Towers and the Pentagon were hit, I guess kind of that day. But even those days, 2 days out of my life, even those 2 days were nothing compared to what some people's every day is like. So I'm not speaking from their perspective or to them. So save your judgment for somebody who's actually trying to, say, here in America we got it made, so everybody else should shut the fuck up. Like, I'm not that person, so please, for my sake and yours, judge somebody else. If you have to do that online, if you have to be that person, well then do it to somebody who's actually saying those fucking things, okay? Because all I'm talking about is getting rid of a certain amount of stress in your day. If you only have a certain amount of stress in your day, if the thing that is actually dampering you is judging these two people for being political, or your stress in your day is being proud of yourself for not being that way, even if you're not judging them. If you're just sitting there being proud of yourself, and you're talking to yourself in your head about how awesome you are for not being that way, and I'm so happy I'm not that way, even if you're just so happy and you're thinking about it for a minute on end, that's a stressful situation for somebody who doesn't have heavy impact stress on them all the time. And it is, in comparison, very bad for you, because the rest of your day is filled with other things, right? So that moment could be filled with anything else. It could be filled with anything from you just being silent and calm, and just experiencing that rare calm that even in a low-stress day is very rare. You could be experiencing that. That's way more better for you than going, oh, I'm so glad I'm not that. Or you could be having a great idea, even, right? I mean, you could be thinking of anything else in that moment. And so I would submit that is a form of stress that most people do not notice is there, and definitely needs to be carved out of a lot of people's days. Because again, even if you've come over that hump of judging other people, a lot of those people are now going, man, I'm so glad I'm not that way anymore. Or I'm so glad I'm not that way. I'm so glad I wasn't raised that way. I'm so glad that I'm blah, blah, blah. I'm so, and it's not actual appreciation. I'm not talking about people who are actually proud to be that way, because those people don't need to sit there for 5 minutes and like revel in it. They don't need to, because they are that way and they're already doing something else. They're fine with that. That's it. They're so fine with that it doesn't even, there's no mirror there. They don't need to have a mirror in the room, because they know that they can see themselves. You know, they're not just a pair of eyes. These other people are basically, like, metaphorically, like just a pair of eyes. Like they know that they are experiencing being there, but like they really need this mirror to sit there and look at, like, okay, yeah, that's me, that's me, that's me. Like, those people looking in the mirror more than just seeing themselves and then moving on. Anything more than that is actually bad for you, in my opinion. That's my opinion. Again, I'm not a scientist. I don't know this for a fact, but I think that you, as a creative human being, have the ability to literally be thinking of anything else. And those moments add up. Those minutes, they add up. They really do. And I don't know. You know what? In fact, that's a good place to end this, because that is something that that's everything that's going through my head now is just over exertion or over explanation of something I've already said. So thank you again for listening. My second episode will have a guest, I promise. But if you like this kind of just honest breakdown and examination of the world around you, that's what my podcast is going to be. My podcast is just a as objective as possible mirror for society. That's basically all it's going to be. I was inspired by a few people in the comedy world, particularly Joey Diaz, Joe Rogan, Tom Segura. Those three guys with their podcasts, they really gave me a sense of what was possible. I never really realized how much I did this in my everyday life. That's how I live. The way that these guys are doing their podcast, that's how I live my everyday life. I try to get those kind of scenarios out of like a boring everyday, like just riding the train.
Hey, what's up, brother? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. No complaints yet.
All right.
Still got some time.
Hey, look, all the time in the world, it won't be enough time. It won't be enough. Have a good day, man. Yeah, so there you go. That's that happening right there. That's a good example of how and the planes are another example of how that this is going to be how it goes. My production value and my this crazy camera work and everything about that will be fixed better and better from episode 2 on. My first episode was just literally just one of these videos that I've made before, basically, but more focused idea on just not not letting anything that I've learned, quote unquote learned, get in the way of something that I can learn in the moment. That's the basic idea, really, is the idea of we're constantly growing and we're constantly changing. So why try to stop that? And even more so, push it ahead. Keep it, slick that mountain up. Let it roll. Let it go. Let the wave form and crash. And hopefully you don't hit any coral. And hopefully, people like watching you surf. Anyway, I love you. Thank you. And see you in episode 2.